If you're seeing a Tinkercad mesh problem error, a red object exceeds size limit warning, or your model disappears after grouping, don't worry. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it step by step. This is one of the most common issues people run into when importing STL, OBJ, or SVG files into Tinkercad. And the good news is that in most cases, it can be solved with a few simple changes. If this tutorial helps, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more quick design and 3D printing fixes. Let's jump right in. First, it helps to understand why this happens. Tinkercad is great for simple modeling, but when an imported file has holes, flipped faces, broken geometry, too many triangles, or edges that are not properly connected, the web engine can struggle to calculate the shape. That's when you get the mesh problem error. The object may cut off, or it may vanish when you try to group it. So the first goal is to repair the model before bringing it back into Tinkercad. If your file is an STL or OBJ, open it in a repair tool first. In Fusion 360, you can go into the Mesh menu, choose Modify, and then Repair. If available, use the Wrap option to create a clean, solid shell. This helps close holes and rebuild the model into something Tinkercad can handle much better. If you're using meshmixer, go to Analysis, then Inspector, and click Auto Repair All. That can patch holes, fix flipped faces, and clean up broken areas automatically. If you prefer Blender, try adding a decimate modifier to reduce the triangle count, especially if the model is extremely detailed. As a general rule, aim to keep it under 100,000 triangles if possible, then export it again as a binary STL for better compatibility. Next, check the geometry boundaries. One very common reason for the mesh error is that the object is too large or positioned too far from the center of the workspace. In Tinkercad, imported models can behave badly if they are way outside the expected bounds. Before importing, move the object so it sits at the exact center of the grid at 0, 0, 0 if your software allows it. If the model is huge, especially if it's 500 millimeters or larger, scale it down before import. Even reducing it to 10% in the import window can sometimes solve the problem immediately. Tinkercad often struggles when geometry is out of bounds, so keeping the model centered and scaled properly makes a big difference. If you're working with SVG files, the issue may not be mesh complexity at all. It may be the paths. SVGs can contain too many nodes, embedded images, or text elements that Tinkercad doesn't handle well. To simplify the shape, open it in Inkscape and use Ctrl+L to simplify the path. This removes extra points and helps the file become easier for Tinkercad to process. Also make sure the file is path only. That means no editable text and no embedded raster images. If needed, convert text to paths first using path, then object to path. The cleaner the SVG, the less likely Tinkercad is to throw a mesh problem. Now let's talk about a surprisingly effective workspace fix. If Tinkercad seems stuck, or you keep getting the same mesh error even after editing the file, try the duplicate hack. Go back to the dashboard, click the gear icon, and choose Duplicate on the design. A fresh copy of the project can sometimes reset stuck calculations and remove whatever glitch is causing the problem. This is especially useful if the original workspace has become unstable after multiple imports or repeated grouping attempts. Another important tip is to group in batches. If you try to select and group 50 shapes at once, Tinkercad may freeze, lag, or fail to calculate the mesh correctly. Instead, break the design into smaller sections and group them in sets of 5 to 10. Once those smaller groups are stable, combine them gradually. This gives Tinkercad less to calculate all at once and greatly reduces the chance of a mesh error. You should also check your browser settings. Make sure hardware acceleration is turned on. If hardware acceleration is disabled, your browser may not be able to render complex 3D objects efficiently, which can cause display issues and mesh calculation problems in Tinkercad. This is a simple setting, but it can make a huge difference, especially if you work with larger files or more detailed imports. So to recap the fastest fix, repair the model in Fusion 360, meshmixer, or Blender, keep the file centered and scaled properly, simplify SVG paths if needed, duplicate the design if the workspace seems stuck, group in smaller batches, and make sure hardware acceleration is enabled in your browser. Following those steps will solve most Tinkercad mesh problems without a lot of trial and error. If this video helped you fix your Tinkercad error, please give it a like, subscribe for more 3D design tutorials, and leave a comment if you want a follow-up guide on repairing STL files for Tinkercad. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.